Hi, I'm Dr. Deanna. Let's get your kid reading this summer. So if you are starting off your summer with the goal of teaching your child to read, I've got the step-by-step, play-by-play to get your child reading this summer. No worksheets, lots of fun, and let's skip the battles. If you're starting at the very, very beginning and your child doesn't come with a lot of sound and letter knowledge, then it's very simple and very basic. In order to start learning to read, I like to introduce children to 7 basic letters first. And once they have these letters, they're ready to start blending a lot of words and learning that skill of blending. So, what are those letters? Well, the first 6 are SATPIN. And I tell people it's actually a very common way to remember it. We say SATPIN. We say our SATPIN letters, okay? And so once they have these first 6 letters, they're ready to blend a lot of 3-sound words. And I always like to add in that M because there's so much we can do with the M. There also is a little trick with the A. It's called the whiny A. I get lots of questions on that too, but it allows you to basically help them get ready to read words with both types of A's. So, and don't worry about that just yet, but in any case, that's the reasoning behind this. So once they have these letters, they're ready to learn and blend basic words. Recent research really does indicate that we can introduce both letters and sounds at the same time, and that preschool children that go into kindergarten knowing their letter names tend to do better long term. So teaching letter names by no means is a bad thing. It's a good thing, but we want to make sure that we introduce the letter sounds and that we do highly focus on those letter sounds because that's what's going to get them reading and spelling. Also, the ABC song, while it's super fun and cute, doesn't do much to actually teach the letters or their sounds. It can be helpful down the line for alphabetizing, but not super helpful right now for reading. I still recommend you sing it for fun. Make sure that LMNOP doesn't become LMNOP, okay? But in any case, starting with these letters, you want to focus on the correct pronunciation. S, A, T, P, I, N, and M. I do a little movement with each sound. It helps the children make that kinesthetic connection and it keeps them engaged. So it's super fun. And especially with the vowels, the movement that we make with the vowels also helps the child remember not only the identification of some of the letters, but also the way their mouth is placed. So we want to be very, very careful and sure that when we're teaching them the letter sounds, that they are pronouncing them correctly and they have the proper placement, okay? And that can be as simple as making sure that they can watch and that you model it. And also, you can have them use a little dollar store mirror. I don't have mine with me right now, but that's a great tool for children to really see how they're placing their mouth muscles. So again, I also want to encourage you to make sure that any resources that you use have a real face when they're teaching the letter sounds. Oftentimes, we see some of these apps and they don't have that aspect. Research really indicates that children learn their letter sounds correctly when they're able to see a real face pronouncing those letter sounds. That's how we're designed to learn language. So once they've learned those letter sounds, and again, I have tons of ideas of how to do that fun through little, I Spy games, and, you can hide posties all around the house with those letter sounds. When they find them, what letter is that? And what sound does that make? Or I spy the letter that says, what letter is that? There are so many ways to do that and do that in a fun and efficient way. But once they have those letter sounds, they are ready for blending. There are 2 components that children need in order to learn to read successfully. The first one is actually something called phonemic awareness. And without this component, they have trouble taking those building blocks of the letter sounds and blending them together to build a word. So things like listening to sounds and blending the sounds back together is super helpful. We do this through wordplay with our children. And even though rhyming is not strongly correlated to reading and learning how to blend, it is connected to long-term reading success because it's teaching our children how language functions and it's building fluency. So don't cut out that rhyming, but also one of the most important parts of phonemic awareness is being able to blend words together. So just, taking a word like hat, hat, being able to do that is the ability to blend those sounds together. And that's what children need to do in order to be able to read. If you want some lessons that really help your child with that skill, check out my sister channel, Dr. Deanna's Learning for Littles. I have tons of lessons where parents have just told me how much that helped their child get past that blending barrier. So check out that channel as well. But you can do this at home with your child. So once they have these letters, and they know them, you can still be working on learning more letters, but you can also now start working on blending actual words. So I can take, my 3 letters, S, A, T, and I can build a word, sat. S, A, T, S, A, T. Now stretch it out, sat. Now blend it, sat. And that's a great way to do the skill of blending with the actual letters. You are using phonemic awareness to blend, but now because you have the letters involved, we call that actual phonics. And when we connect the letter sound to the letter, it's known as the alphabetic principle. So that's where we switch over from phonemic awareness, if you've heard that term, to the actual phonics. That's the difference between the two. So if I were doing this with a child, the first thing I would do is I give them the word auditorily, okay, or orally. So I'm going to say a word like pan. All right, let's listen to that on our chin. Pan. All right, now I use my shoulder to represent the first sound. What sound did you hear at the beginning of pan? P. Ooh, I heard the P. Which letter goes with that sound? Yeah, it's the P. So that's going to go in the first box. And you notice in a lot of my videos, I use this board with these boxes. This board is a great tool. It actually comes in a set and it has different variations of the boxes. So you can use it with all sorts of numbers of letters. But in any case, right now we're just doing the basic 3-sound word. So we have 3 boxes and it's 1 sound per box. These sound boxes are called Elkonin boxes. And this activity is called word mapping. All right. So we have P, A. Ooh, that's the sound that goes with the letter A, so I'm going to put that in the middle. Now notice that I stretched it out just a little. The medial vowels are amongst the hardest for children to be able to hear. So we really want to stretch it out for them and help them to hear it. And now I look for my ending sound. P, A, N. Ooh, I heard the N. And that's the sound that goes with the letter N, so I put the N in the last box. All right, now they're ready. That's called segmenting. Now we stretch it out. Pan. And sometimes, especially if they're having trouble really hearing that middle sound or really having trouble blending it, I say, all right, let's sing it like an opera singer. All right, pan. That's where you get the singing in my lessons. That's why I do that, because I've helped so many kindergartners learn to blend by actually singing the words first. All right, pan. Blend it, pan. And you can do this with so many different words, just with these 7 first letters, and all the while be working on other letters and growing their alphabet knowledge so they can build more and more words. And pretty soon, before you know it, they're ready to be introduced. I put them out of order, but that's okay. I don't have all the letters here that I need, but you can start introducing things like blends, or you can start introducing things like digraphs, like the SH that says shh, but that comes a little later down the road. Right now, we want to get them blending. Once they have a few words under their belt and they're blending really well, then you can go ahead and start building sentences and helping them to see how that works. So these are all great steps, and doing this just 5 to 10 minutes a day is all it takes to grow your child in the skill. It should not be a long lesson. We want to keep it short. We want to keep it snappy, because their attention is short and it is snappy, and that's perfectly developmentally appropriate. Now, I do want to say a quick word about, speaking of developmentally appropriate, about when your child is ready to read. Now, we have a developmental range of reading readiness, and that starts at anywhere from age 3 to age 8. Age 3 is really on the early side. And then we have children that may not be ready to read until age 8. This is completely developmentally appropriate. And it's why countries like Finland do so well, because they don't push the academic reading until about age, I think 6, 7, right? And so I've done a video on this, and I had looked into their educational program. So the average age of reading readiness is age 6 or 7. So keep that in mind. If your child is having trouble blending, it might be that they're just not ready. If you have concerns about, a learning difference like dysgraphia or dyslexia, any processing disorder, that is absolutely something that you can get evaluated. And if you suspect that for any reason, like maybe they're just having trouble learning letter sounds, they have a hard time remembering them to the extent that they become frustrated, they have a hard time remembering shapes, things like that. If they're having some of those early signs of learning differences, you can go ahead and have them evaluated just to rule that out at this point. Typically, we don't look for that until about age 8, because again, we want to give time for that reading development range. But again, I just want to put that in there because I have seen so many parents say they're frustrated because they hear that they should be having their child read really young, but their child is struggling, and their child just may not be ready for it, and that's okay. The other part I want to caution you on is it's great to do these activities if your child's ready for them. Age 3, age 4, age 5, that's fantastic. If they are ready for it, that's great. But please hear me when I say, do not forget to include the word play and those phonemic awareness games and listening for beginning sounds and sorting. Those things are so important for building skills that play into long-term reading success. That's what's going to get them ready for coming across unfamiliar words and having word attack skills. That's what's going to build fluency and comprehension and the ability to have expression when they read. So please hear me out when I say, although this is great and this is, learning how to decode, we don't want to replace those important developmental activities and the play-based stuff. We don't want to replace that completely because those things are super important. So please do hear me out on that and have fun with it. Remember, repetition is your friend. You want to do this about 5-10 minutes a day. Again, you might have to take a break for a day. That's okay. And make it playful. You want this to be a time that your child looks forward to. Again, take a look at my lessons. You can get ideas of how to interact with your child. And with that, I just want to remind you that you don't need a rigid schedule. It can be fun. It can be about the progress, and it can be a positive experience for you and your child filled with joy. So for more information about how to do that, I encourage you to subscribe If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button and help me get this out to more people. And with that, I'll see you next time when I teach you your super learning strengths, one child and family at a time.